Developing a Robust Learning Environment by Lenny George. Let's take a look at the traditional classroom. Rows, and, students in rows, but they're all facing in the same direction. They're all looking at their teacher, whose primary role at this point is a lecturer. He's basically dispensing information or knowledge onto his class, and the students are all taking notes, but they're really practicing passive learning instead of active learning. Now, on the other end of the spectrum is 21st century learning spaces, which involves interactivity and collaboration amongst peers, formations where students actually sit and face each other instead of all facing the same direction. They're using up-to-date technology in the classroom. But most importantly, you're introducing real-world problems and a problem-based curriculum into the classroom, and you're depending on students to provide solutions to problems that are of interest to them and of interest to the community. So the real question comes in, how do you change a traditional classroom into a 21st century learning space? And maybe even more importantly, what does it really mean to have a 21st century learning space? This ideal classroom environment can best be summed up by Sir Ken Robinson. Let's take a listen to the end of his recent TED Talks.
Second, we have to recognize that most great learning happens in groups, that collaboration is the stuff of growth. If we atomize people and separate them and judge them separately, we form a kind of disjunction between them and their natural learning environment. And thirdly, it's crucially about the culture of our institutions, the habits of the institution and the habitats that they occupy.
So what Sir Ken Robinson is saying is that the best learning happens in groups. And inside these groups, there's a great deal of collaboration. And as you remember from the previous slide's picture, it's not about separation where everyone is facing the same direction. No, it's the opposite, where interactivity is encouraged amongst peers. As the school on the whole, the school culture actually has to promote 21st century learning. It cannot come from one or two people, but it has to come ingrained in the school culture for it to last. And the school has to establish certain habits that transcend into the teacher's way of life in the teacher's classroom. So with this in mind, let's address this research question, which is, what are the design aspects of creating robust blended learning environments for high school math students? Now, you may be confused with a blended learning environment as opposed to some of the recent talk of flipped classroom environments. With a flipped classroom, when a student goes home, they open up a computer and they watch a video. The video was made probably by someone they don't know, and in essence, the video is very general. It doesn't address specific needs of the students. It's just a pre-recorded video that is one for the masses. Now, when the same student goes to school, the school environment gives the student worksheets to do. Worksheets that maybe previously the student would do at home. Now the student is taking the worksheets to school, and the teacher's role is whittled down to essentially a tutor helping students during class time to work on these problem sets. This would be the flipped classroom model. Let's look at the blended classroom model. So the students, they still open up a computer, but on this computer are videos and tutorials that address the specific needs of the target population. Essentially, these videos are personalized for this specific class that the videos are made for. Also, when the students go to school, the school environment actually cherishes this real-world problem solving and collaboration. It encourages interactivity amongst peers. This really hits home the concept of the flipped classroom model versus the blended learning model. So if we think of an average group of students in this day and age, they go to school, and as they go to school, they're probably subjected to lectures and worksheets. This is a typical day in the life of a student going to school, and it hasn't changed more or less in the past few years and a few decades. Now, when these same group of students, they go home, they do homework. And if we're really honest with ourselves, that homework that they're doing is probably the same as the worksheets that they didn't complete during the class time. Not very engaging right now. Now, these same students, in 20 years, they're going to be professionals. And what do professionals do? They go to work. And what does the work environment demand of a typical professional? Well, first of all, they're probably going to have to make a presentation or two. So they'll have to work on their presenting skills. Also, many professionals have to work in a team and use collaboration and teamwork. And most importantly, a lot of professionals have to solve problems and give innovative solutions to certain problems in the company. Now, what's absent in this map are anything from worksheets to lectures. Because working environments want you to produce, they want you to present, they want you to work as a team, and they want you to create solutions. So let's address this map again with the typical students. Now what we're proposing is when these same students, they go to school, this school environment is going to promote presentations. Let's promote teamwork. Let's promote problem solving. If the work environment is demanding that these are the skills that are going to be successful for these workers, we can promote these at the teenage level in the schools. Also, when these average group of students, they go home, yeah, they can still open up a laptop, but when they open up that laptop, let's give them introductions. The introductions can be done at home. Let's give them tutorials. So if they did struggle, we know what they're struggling with, and we can actually tailor the tutorials for this specific population. And also, we can give them interactive materials. We can have them find their own interactive materials and come to class and share their resources that they found. This would be an ideal blended learning environment. So the purpose of this study is to apply a design-based research to reform a mathematics curriculum. And you may be asking, why choose a design-based research as opposed to some of the other types of research that's out there? Well, if you think of a researcher and they want to do research in a school, they may come to the school and maybe they give the teacher an innovative lesson or they give the teacher some advice. And they write a study on this one lesson or a little bit of advice, and they hope for some meaningful change to come out of the school. But what's missing in this entire equation? I hope you said teacher input, because the teacher wasn't consulted really at any given point of this process. Student input. The students are being analyzed, but there was no reform process from the researcher's end. And to that end, refinement. Is this process getting better and better over time for the benefit of the school? So with design-based research, the researchers and the teachers, they work together, and as they meet, they start to address the specific needs and struggles of their students. With this in mind, they start to develop and design a curriculum that's robust and targeted for their specific student body. Once they design that curriculum, they actually give it to the students, and they see how the students handle it. They see what the positives are, the negatives. They see what needs to be changed. And they go right back to the drawing board and change the parts that need to be changed and harness or refine in or hone in on the parts that are successful. And then the cycle starts over again. From researchers and teachers, change the curriculum, go right back to the students and give it to them, get feedback, and go right back to the researchers and teachers. It's an iterative cycle. Now this cycle is actually based off of a design-based research approach. Now, with the review of the literature, it shows that technology is ubiquitous in the lives of the students. They're growing up, and in their lives, technology is at their fingertips. Also, educators should use a variety of instructional methods, most of which should involve collaboration of some sort in order to promote student engagement and activity and interactivity amongst peers. And also, with this design-based research model, it involves multiple iterations that add refinement over time. The design-based research model is based off of an article by Amiel and Reeves that really highlights the analysis portion, the development of this curriculum, the iterative cycles of testing and retesting and refinement to hone in on the parts that work, and then a time of reflection to document the parts that work, the parts that don't work, and the analysis of a blended model so that you can extrapolate it to other settings. Here are the references.